All right. Hi, my name is Tejas Gadhia, and I'm a product manager at Zoho.
And tell us about Zoho, if you will, Tejas.
Yeah, so Zoho's a global technology company. We make about 50 plus business applications, everything from CRM to email to finance, project management, custom apps, you name it. We probably make a business app for it, yeah.
And originally from India.
Yeah, we're based out of India. That's where our headquarters is, probably about 10, 11,000 people out there. And then offices all around the world, Canada, Mexico, US, Europe, Australia, China, Japan, everywhere.
Tell us about that global number. How many employees, how big a company you are?
Globally, probably in like 11,000, maybe pushing 12,000. So the majority is based out of India, focused on development and engineering efforts. And then around the world, we kind of have this system called transnational localism, where we have kind of these hub and spoke offices around the world that support local markets. So for example, for the US, we'll have local marketing, local customer service, local sales, local account management, local communications, press, stuff like that.
And you very recently moved to McAllen, like, was it less than a year ago or just about a year ago?
Yeah, the first person we hired probably about a year and a half or so now. Officially opened the office April 21. First person we hired was probably during COVID, maybe summer 2020. And then now we have about 35 people here. We got another 8 to 10 hiring next 2 weeks, and we're running out of space. So we got to find a bigger place.
Why McAllen?
There's a lot of reasons why. So we kind of we shopped around and did a lot of research around Texas and figuring out what location would be good for us. And so when we look at cities that we want to set up shop in, we basically look at what's affordability like, what's healthcare like, what's education like, what's cost of living, just general happiness of the residents and kind of comfort. Safety is a big one too. And so out of Texas, we look at all these factors. We kind of made this massive spreadsheet, kind of compares all these different scores. And then we went through and finalized the top 5, 10, made trips out to there, look at the cities, kind of get a vibe for it. And I'd say even though McAllen scored highly on all the other things like safety and education and healthcare and all that stuff, the X factor was really kind of just, I'd say city vibe, city culture, something that you can't really capture in a spreadsheet itself. And that's kind of just the personality of the folks here, the kindness, the humbleness, down to earth. Not a lot of we're not the most flashy company, and so the vibe of the city also matches that. Just simple, put their head down, hardworking, and that's kind of just resonated a lot with us. Family oriented, big one too.
Do you want to give a shout out to the city leadership and the McAllen Economic Development Corporation?
Yeah. So the city's been amazing to work with. Out of all the cities we talk to, some go above and beyond, and you can just tell the city is firing on all cylinders. From the moment we sent the first inquiry email, didn't even explain anything, just hey, we want to come check out the city and see what it has to offer. From the mayor's office to the city planner, city manager's office, economic council, everybody works together. So when we had meetings, 10, 15 people are in there from all these different departments. Everyone's on the same page. There's no looping somebody in or filling them in. Everyone just seems to be working on good wavelengths. So it seems like the city has a lot of growth potential, which is good, but also maybe a little scary because I'm from Austin and it grew very fast over the past 20 years or so. And so hopefully that growth comes to McAllen as well, but hopefully it's more sustainable growth.
And what work goes on here in this McAllen office?
So in the McAllen office, we have a little bit of everything, mostly customer facing, so sales, customer service, some people on the development team helping customers build out custom solutions. We have some folks on HR, IT, operations and stuff like that, obviously. But yeah, a little bit of everything. Anything that involves working with customers is pretty much what we want to build out here.
And my good friend Ronnie said that there's one particular topic I should bring up with you, and it's called transnational localism.
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of these different offices around the world that every company will have offices. As bigger the company, they'll have offices all over. And the big X factor is how do those offices that are local for sales, marketing, customer facing stuff stay connected to the actual core product teams, the development teams, the engineering teams, the leadership teams. As you kind of distribute, you kind of feel like you're just on a little island on your own. And so this transnational localism is all about having offices within a 4 or 5 hour driving range, so Austin to McAllen, for example, and we can all still get together, short flight, quick drive, and still meet, work together, work with different teams, and kind of still have that cross-functional kind of collaboration and just idea sharing, rather than just being in your own silo and being a remote worker in a random place supporting a region. You don't really feel like you're connected to the company as much.
Have you always had that philosophy as a company?
It started maybe about like 5, 6 years ago. I think COVID accelerated it extremely, but even about, I want to say 8 to 9 years ago, we opened up our first like kind of remote office in India, and that was kind of like our pilot program. So there's this like city, maybe about 6, 7 hour drive from our main office, and that's where like a handful, maybe like a dozen or 2 dozen employees like originally grew up from, and then they moved to the big city for work, and they wanted to just move back home where their families and kind of where they grew up were. And so started out with a dozen employees, and now that office has over 1,000 people in India, and so now we're replicating that kind of around the world. As you know, they all start small, 10, 15, 20, 30 people, and eventually it'll be in the hundreds and 500 plus.
And I know that here in the McAllen office, you're in growth mode as well.
Yeah. Haven't really slowed hiring too much. I mean, market conditions are a little bit, I would say, unpredictable right now. But in general, for us, business is still kind of going on as usual. So I think we have about another 8 to 10 people probably starting in a couple of weeks. Usually we like to hire in kind of groups and batches. This way, even though we're working on different teams, everyone comes in together as a group. You kind of get that kind of like a school vibe where like everyone's in class together, you learn about things. Otherwise, if you just start and only go to your team, you don't really understand what other people are doing in the office and kind of what their roles and responsibilities are, and kind of that relationship is kind of just not built.
And what sort of skill sets are you looking for from the workers you hire?
That's a good question. So for us, skill sets is not like a concrete thing, I'd say. It's more like really just a passion to kind of learn and expand and kind of always be hungry for knowledge. I'd say if there's one requirement, it's being curious and always wanting to be learning. We make a bunch of different products. It's impossible to know everything about everything at all, but to kind of always be curious about it is a big X factor. We have people who have zero tech experience coming into it. Some people came from call centers, some people came from retail, some people came from straight from college, or some people came from high school. So it's pretty flexible, but in general, we kind of like folks that are just looking for a change and wanting something that's kind of treats them maybe better than other past companies have.
And going back to like the big picture question about your company, who are your customers?
So customers are pretty much, I'd say, any kind of organization. So we have like solopreneurs, so single mom and pop companies that might do consulting or web design or something kind of small like that, or even services like plumbers and electricians, very small scale. And then you have Fortune 500 companies with 10,000, 100,000 employees all over the board. So the software works for everybody. We kind of just try to make the software as easy as possible for people to use. A lot of business software can sometimes be dependent on like consultants to like come in and configure things, and you got to pay these other people to learn how, or set up the system the way you want it. But we try to focus on making sure that the customer can set it up and use it how they want it, and not have to spend the money on the consultants, basically.
Okay, well, those are all the questions I had. Is there anything I've missed? Anything else you would like to add? Last bit again.
Yeah, so I think privacy in the industry is kind of a big focus for us, and kind of going to be a differentiator for companies going forward. A lot of companies say they care about privacy, but I'd say it's better to see what they do rather than what they say. There's a lot of big companies. The bigger the companies, the bigger privacy abusers they generally are, from tracking you from your phone to your car to your TV to your smartwatch to whatever connected device you have. And so for us, we kind of make sure that we don't do any tracking on any of our websites. We don't share data with anybody. We don't send it to Google. We don't send it to Facebook. Customers' data is protected for themselves. And a big focus just in general is ensuring privacy happens. A lot of people think that if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. So for all of our Zoho apps, we always offer a free version no matter what, but those free versions have no advertisements, have no tracking, have no nothing, because the free version is supported by the paid versions, versus other companies might only offer free and kind of make their money from other kind of data surveillance.
I would think that's a good selling point for customers.
Yeah, it's usually, I mean, some people will buy strictly because of the privacy reasons. For other people, it might be kind of what puts them over the hill and kind of is the X factor between two competitors that they might think are kind of even. But in general, it's more of a kind of a morality thing. I mean, you're kind of just leaving money on the table because you could track people and you could make money doing ads and you could expand your revenue. But for us, it's not about extracting the most amount of money. It's just what is the right thing to do? Like, do you track people or do you not? And it seems like a pretty simple answer.
Well, I really appreciate this interview. For those people learning about Zoho for the first time and watching this video about your company, how does anyone reach the business?
I'd say Zoho.com is the best thing. On there's a bunch of help resources. You can contact anyone from sales and support. And then YouTube has great resources for learning how to actually use the products, a lot of training courses and stuff like that. But yeah, you go to Zoho.com, you can find everything. But I do warn, it could be like drinking from a fire hose. We'll make a lot of stuff, and so once you spend a good amount of time reading, because there's a lot of information there.
Well, thank you so much for today's interview. I've certainly learned a lot.
Thanks.